there may be cause to redefine what we think of as international as we go through the current COVID crisis. When you look at business schools and their track records, you see different initiatives, partnerships, exchange programs, and a real leader among the US business schools in this field has been the Ross School at the University of Michigan with the MAP program and the sort of international exposure that brings. So I'm delighted to introduce Hilal Koc Savci, who herself did undergrad in international studies, and given the career that you built, Hilal, that's taken you from Moscow, New York, Istanbul, San Francisco, you've spent time at Credit Suisse and Google on the West Coast before joining Ross in the class of 2010. Thank you very much for being with us at the CentreCourt Festival.
Absolutely, happy to. Thank you.
So I mean, we talk about your own extraordinarily international background. You're now based in the UK. You worked at LinkedIn for a couple of years, product development at Facebook. What was that international background that you have really something that attracted you to a school like Ross?
Absolutely. I was really fortunate, both as a child growing up and then later on in my professional career. I was exposed to a lot of different cultures. I moved to a couple of countries when I was younger, and then coming back to the US to sort of finish university and decide on my professional career path, I realized that was a really big and important differentiator for me. Not only actually going to different countries and getting that experience and working with people and understanding the nuances and challenges, but I also think that that provides a very differentiated background and skill set. The more that you can learn to adapt at a young age, the more likely you are to adapt to a number of challenges later on. And I found that people that have that experience are quite well-rounded, and that programs that prize that and really put that at the center are successful in the long term and are able to deal with a number of unexpected challenges, COVID being an interesting example. But when I thought about the schools I wanted to go to, for sure, I wanted the international aspect and the valuing of differentiated views and opinions and research to be really at the forefront.
And of course, pre-MBA, you'd had professional experience at Credit Suisse and Google. Do you think that that's something that the admissions team at Ross already saw in you, this ability to work across, different sectors and different cultures?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I was really thinking about when I was ready to apply to business school was a couple of things. First, really, how do I continue to grow myself and learn? And I think that has to be the real foundation for the way that you approach what you want to do in your next step of life, whether it's an MBA or other things. And I knew that I wanted to build upon my existing experience. I had experience in, I did tech M&A banking at Credit Suisse. And then I worked in sales and product marketing within Google. And I wanted to both marry those, but add on to that and really grow in terms of skill set. And that was really what I focused on, that I wanted a school that had that broader set of general management skills, as well as strategy and marketing, areas that were of big interest to me. So I really looked for the ability to marry those. And for sure, I think my ability to switch into pretty different sectors played well into demonstrating that I'm adaptable and want to continue learning as well.
Right. We talked about how Ann Arbor, where the school is based, is one of the smartest cities in the US. And of course, Ross within the University of Michigan, which with engineering med, I mean, that there are so many areas of expertise. Did that make a difference to have that sort of mix of business, technology, science, everything surrounding you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what really differentiates Ross from a lot of other schools. Ross is part of a huge network of very well regarded and established research institutions and academic institutions. So starting from the University of Michigan, his undergraduate business program is also very highly ranked, going through into both medical, sustainability, engineering, law school. There's a number of programs there, which I think adds to the wealth and the culture and the ability to learn as much as possible during your MBA. Right. For me, that was incredibly important. I didn't want sort of a one-trick pony who's really specialized in one area. And I used that to my full advantage. As an example, when I was doing my MBA, I also took several courses in law and then also actually was a research assistant for a law professor, because it was something I was sort of interested in, and that really allowed me the opportunity to expand. In addition to that, when I think about what really stood out for me about Ross is not only is it a very well-regarded program in terms of Ross itself, but it also has a huge network both internally and externally. So what I mean by that is domestically, being internally in the US, as well as internationally. And that's really important to me as well, because, you know, one of the things that we always talk about that's important for a business school is a network. And that network really needs to be pretty broad. If it's too deep and narrow in specific areas, you don't get to have that breadth of experience, and you never know what happens in life. You want to stay nimble. You might want to go into new countries, new industries. And I found that that was a really big differentiator as well.
Right. Now, in terms of the international dimension, which is so much part of you know, who you are, the MAP program was pioneer. Perhaps you can just share a few words about MAP and the role that it plays within the 2-year program.
Yes, so MAP stands for Multi-Action, I believe, Disciplinary Program. And so the idea is that MAP allows students to have a very first hands-on experience, and 2, a really unique and international experience in terms of hands-on consulting and learning. And so there's 2 aspects of it that I think make it really unique. One, it was incredibly innovative when it actually was created. So MAP as a program was created far before any other school. It was something that was incredibly well established, which allowed it to actually partner with a lot of different types of companies internationally as well as domestically in the US. So that aspect of it makes it super unique, very innovative early on program. Second, the really hands-on nature is what's super unique. I think what a lot of older different institutions people think about is so much of the in-class learning is theoretic. So much of your MBA can be outdated by the time you get into practice. But with the MAP program, even from the first year, you know that you will be in a position to, 1, learn and apply what you learn in classroom, see what sticks, see what doesn't, see if you can innovate, see if you can provide feedback and share. And I think people sharing after the program, you know, people go and do the consultation project with the company. Upon returning, so many of those learnings are used to enrich the program, to help adapt it, to bring it up to speed, to maybe add different nuances. And that overall is really an incredible differentiator for Ross School of Business. My own MAP experience was great. I had the opportunity with a team of 5 colleagues as well, so the 6 of us went to Istanbul, Turkey, and we actually did a project with the Istanbul Stock Exchange, in which they were considering a number of different ways in which they would align from like a stock settlement perspective. After stock was sold, what is the best system that they can align with? And they were considering, for example, a hybrid system. They were also considering the European system, the US system. And so we worked really hands-on in a somewhat technical area, but also provided an understanding around what change management means, how you pick differentiated systems, how you actually implement it, how do you influence people in an organization to agree with your recommendation. And it was really an awesome experience. My team was people from Brazil, China, India, the US. We had myself, and it was just a really fun experience to get to know each other and also really have hands-on impact. We're all actually stay close with the team at the stock exchange that we worked with as well. And I would say it was an overall one of the highlights of my program.
Right. Now, of course, you've gone on since Ross to enjoy a very successful career that's included LinkedIn and now Facebook. Also, in a capacity as a startup advisor, is that notion of sort of giving back part of the culture at Ross of, you know, how you can then always support the learning and development of others?
Absolutely. I think it all starts from the culture and the style of people at Ross is definitely, 1, ambitious, aspirational, but at the same time, the type of people that will hold your hand up and bring you along in the journey. And I think that's such a differentiator. I mean, we bring it back to today, but we see the difference between leaders who come from that culture and are able to bring people together, build community in extremely challenging times like this current COVID pandemic, and others that are sort of more self-centered in their specific space. And Ross breeds the first. And I think that is what's really differentiating and important. The idea is that you want to learn together, you want to aspire, you want to be ambitious, but you also want to make sure that your community is supported and that you're giving back. And that's something that I observed and had the benefit to take on while I was there as well. I learned from so many of my colleagues who helped me, both coaching for interviews, preparing for meetings, working on schoolwork. And I also had the opportunity to give back in the same way. I helped in terms of our career guidance and career counseling and support and coaching for interviews. And then later on, we've stayed 100% in that same culture. Many of my colleagues today support each other in terms of, for example, finding new jobs, changing countries, building a network. I would say every other day I get asked from a colleague about certain areas of support and how we can help each other. And it's funny, when I moved to the UK, London, about 5.5 years ago, one of the first people that reached out to me was a Ross alum to welcome me and say, let me know if you need anything. And I think that just really speaks to the way that we build relationships that are super long lasting.
Right. So perhaps to wrap, words of advice that you would have for the next generation, applying to Ross, which receives thousands of applications for places in the programs. What would your core advice be to those individuals?
Yeah, I think first off, go in with an open mind. Really think about what you want to get out of a program, and then really long term, how you want it to impact your life and your career later on. So I think sometimes people get very focused and narrow and kind of hone in on specific recommendations from others, but allow yourself to step back and really think about, just even the basics of the experience. Do you want a campus environment, or do you want to be in a city in which you might have different options? Do you want to be in an environment in which you're amongst people from a lot of different international programs in which you can learn from different programs, or do you want a more focused program? So I think really think about what you want first, but go in with a really open mind. A lot of times you'll change your perspective. What you went in thinking you might do might not be what you come out doing. That certainly changed for me. And I think allow yourself to broaden your horizon and take on challenges that you normally wouldn't. And I'll give the example, of course, of international, but I think there's so much value to that. That being at Ross is the perfect time, or a business school in general, is the perfect time to really explore those options. See what works for you, see doesn't, in a low risk environment in which you're learning and in a great group of people that are going to support you. Right. And then lastly, I think always focus on the learning mindset. We talk about this in general, but really I think the way that a business school is structured helps you switch into that mindset for the long term as well. You're going in there to learn not only new areas of study and work, but also new people, new experiences, and keeping that learning mindset, starting it at Ross, but really keeping it long-term will really make you successful in the future.
Right. And I think as individuals now looking at the current crisis and this idea of returning to business school as they approach it with that open mind and the learning mindset that obviously you've applied in years since you graduated from the school, you're a wonderful illustration of where an MBA from a top school like Ross can take you. So again, Hilal, thank you very much for bringing your voice and perspectives to the CentreCourt event. I'm sure that Sujin and other colleagues at Ross will be all commenting on the story that they heard from you today and how inspiring that was. So thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I had the opportunity to see Sujin actually recently. There was a London event for alumni, and she and the team are lovely and definitely respect that they'd be able to represent this well and share their feedback too. I think one thing I will say in closing as well, I was just randomly speaking with my husband about this the other day. I think it's such a great time to go to business school right now, given the amount of change that's happening in the world. Really being that hands-on learning model, both that we found at Ross, but broadly speaking that you can get at business school, it really sets you up actually to take advantage of what will be a number of a downtime around changes and be able to apply those in the next couple of years. It's going to be really exciting. And I feel like the people that apply this year that graduate in 2 years are really going to be in an incredible new world. So take advantage of that situation and focus on learning.
That's a wonderful theme for us to carry throughout the CentreCourt Festival. Thank you very much. Great closing remarks. Stay well, and thank you again.
Thank you very much.